Finder.
165 million Americans are fully vaccinated, but about 90 million Americans are eligible for vaccines and still haven't gotten their first shot. In the last 7 days alone, nearly 3 million Americans have gotten their first shot. That's the highest 7-day total in a month.
There's President Biden doubling down on his administration's push to get Americans vaccinated. The president put a positive spin on the current state of the pandemic, but cases are rising. Major cities are taking action to clamp down yet again. Victor Davis Hansen's with us. He writes and thinks about these things at the Hoover Institution and joins us now. As they say in radio, sir, longtime listener, first-time caller, we're honored to have you. Thank you. It's amazing how quickly the Democrats, and particularly the president and vice presidents, have changed their tune on the vaccine since last year.
Yeah, I think the vaccination program, Operation Warp Speed, was weaponized from the very beginning. It was an election year. I think in that, remember that vice presidential debate with Mike Pence, Kamala Harris just said flat out she wouldn't get a vaccination that was associated with Trump. That had a lot of deleterious effects on people when you have a candidate saying it's not safe, apparently. Joe Biden emulated the same thing. And then we had this, Dr. Fauci came out and just said, we're not going to have a vaccine in 2020. It's just not going to happen, the election year. And then we had that very strange circumstances. We've never cleared it up, Leland, about the Pfizer announcement. It was scheduled for October. We were all expecting a big announcement that it was ready, and then suddenly it wasn't. And then 5 days after the election, then it was. And the media wasn't really involved in those disclosures. They went directly to individual people who leaked them. And so the idea, and then when Trump was president, there was a lot of media. If you go back and look at the media accounts of the vaccination, there was a lot of worry about this mRNA technology, and it was not tried. Trump was forcing it down people too quickly. Joe Biden even said, you remember on Inauguration Day, I don't know if it was just a lapse of memory or cognitive issue, but he said that there had been no one vaccinated until he was inaugurated. In fact, there were 17 million people that had been vaccinated, including Joe Biden himself. So this thing was entirely fraught with a political weaponization of the issue. And then as soon as Biden became president, the media just did a 180 and said, you know what, we've got to play down the dangers and the possible side effects, and let's get everybody vaccinated. I'm happy they did. I got vaccinated. I think everybody should get vaccinated in a cost-benefit analysis. But it's been miraculous, very strange to see this complete flip, and then people who did a lot of damage to the reputation and the ability of federal officials to convince people that it was a wise thing to get vaccinated, suddenly now blaming other people for the fact that
you even now have the White House calling the New York Times coverage of COVID irresponsible at times. In the coverage, as you rightly point out, has a lot to do with how the public views what's happening. We have a Gallup poll that we want to put up in terms of how Americans view the pandemic. 40% say the pandemic is getting better compared to 89% in June. That's a 49% drop. If you think about it in a different way, take out the media coverage and think about what we know, which is 164 million people are vaccinated and only 1,000 people with the vaccination have died. Seems like a pretty big success story to me. Are the American people just not hearing how good things are, or you think they're rightly really afraid right now?
No, I think they're wary. I think they feel they've been lied to. And it's not just the vaccination. They were told that the virus wasn't transmissible. And then they were told that masks were of no utility, then one mask, and then two were better. Herd immunity was 60, 70, 80, or was it 90% necessary? They were told, as I said earlier, the vaccination wouldn't appear. Then they were told that if you got the vaccination, despite the side effects, then it didn't really matter. You don't worry about other people. You can be in a room with people who are not vaccinated, but you are protected. So it was sort of an individual choice, and everybody, and then that kind of said, and then it was sold, you won't have to wear a mask, you won't have to social distance, you won't have to be locked down. And then that sort of tapered off with the Delta variant. And behind all of this is the subtext, or the real truth, and that is that this vaccination is an amazing medical breakthrough. It came through very quickly in 10 months. It gives about 96% efficacy of all the variants in the sense of you will not die from it, and
Right.
you'll probably not be hospitalized. So you're absolutely right. If you count up all the number of people who have had COVID naturally, they have a natural acquired immunity, there's some overlap. And then the people who have one vaccination or two, we are getting near 70 or 75%. I think a lot of people rightly expect that this Delta variant to slow down very quickly. So we should be optimistic, we should be happy, but not when we've weaponized this entire discussion for the last 15 months and people have no confidence in the CDC, they have no confidence in NIH, no confidence in WHO because of the politicalization.
Yeah, we're going to get into some of the WHO issues and some of the issues about trusting the media as it relates to the coronavirus a little later. Victor Davis Hansen, thank you very much from the Hoover Institution. We appreciate it, sir.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Up next, you know it's there, the media's unabashed love affair with the Cuomo brothers over the past year. Right now, it is forefront on everyone's mind tonight as we get new details regarding the sometimes blurry line between media and political officials. And remember, tell us what you think about this on social media at Leland Vitter, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We'll see you there.